If you check actual values, that's the same thing. You see down here. What do we get for arc cosine -1 is pi? So x is -1, y is pi. So -1 pi, that's y. So -1 pi. Okay. Now you check this point. X input is 0. Then you have a output was pi over 2. So 0x height is pi over 2. Then how about x equals 1? X equals 1, this one. Y is 0. So 1, 0. Okay? So for the value, trigonometric value is 1, you have angle is 0. Okay? So that's the picture. That's the first thing you got to remember. Our cosine picture is a decreasing one, like sine, cosine, also decreasing. Okay. So that's the first thing you got to remember. The picture is a decreasing one. The range you want to remember is positive, never negative, but less than pi. This is the one we get for all those special values. How did we get values? Remember, that's from unit circle. Everything from the basic definition. Yeah, you probably want to draw this many times. Maybe you want to put this one on your driving wheel. Yeah. Because the wheel is also a circle. Look at this. From the basic values, you got pictures. Yeah, you got those basic values are cosine, and you have the picture. You may also get the picture by flipping the original picture, y equals cosine x, based on this line, y equals x. So we got the picture. That's the first thing. Okay? The second thing is something related to the identity. Alright? So it's also, again, based on the values. Values is the starting point from the unit circle. You get graphs and you get identities. Now let's look at identity. From the left one, angles goes to the values, and then from arc cosine inverse, you got the values. So if you look at here, arc cosine radical 3 over 2, you studied radical 3 over 2, you studied from here to the left, you get the angle. So radical 3 over 2 gives you pi over 6 for arc cosine. That's what you have. If you don't want to look at that, that's what you have. Okay? Now, and then you end up with this angle, pi over 6. You want to go back. If you go back, you use cosine. So that's why you see, if you put cosine in front of it, it goes back to the same value, radical 3 over 2. Okay? Radical 3 over 2. So value goes to the angle, and then using cosine goes back to the same value. So you started from here, goes to here, like first inside cosine, and then add cosine, go back. Okay, so this is for started from the right hand side, this value. If you look at this one, is the same. -1, using a cosine, you go back to find out pi. So, and then you using cosine act on pi, you get -1. So the things you want to look at here is this one. Okay, a cosine -1, you started with right hand side, gives you pi. Okay, and then we then have a cosine -1 is the pi. Okay, without looking at the last one. Okay, a cosine -1 is pi. It's like here. Then you act cosine on that on both sides. Then it goes back. Okay, it's basically from here to here and then from here to the same value. Okay. What I'm saying is that cosine acts on a value first. You then put cosine in front of arccosine, you get the same x. So those two are the same. This is very important. I'll show you. You see, this is the special values. This actually works for any values. Okay? I'll give you an example near the end. Previously, we have a sine, arcsine x is x. Now for arccosine, we have the same thing. Cosine arccosine is x. Here, x was started with a value of trigonometric function cosine. Similarly, you can initiate from left-hand side here, this circle, right circle. So you can initiate from cosine, okay, and then end up with the value, this value, starting with here, end up with value, or here, end up with this value. And then you can, using a cosine, x back to this same value, 3 pi over 4. So those x are the same, but in this case, x is from 0 to pi, because we restricted our angle from 0 to pi. Okay, here are the actual examples. Cosine pi is -1, so you might write here. Yeah, cosine pi is -1, and then arccosine -1 is pi. So those two values are the same, and this actually works for every value. So that's why you can have arccosine cosine x is x. Those two values are the same. Those two values are the same. In this case, those two are values of trigonometric function. Cosine, in this case, they are angles. And angles must be inside. Okay? Here, x is from 0 to pi. How about the x here? The x here is from -1 to 1. Okay? They are different. If you put 2 here, it doesn't make sense. Okay? So you want to remember. The second thing is the identity. Those two. Okay, now here's the same thing. You see, you studied with the angle pi over 6. You then get cosine pi over 6 is radical 3 over 2. You then act using cosine to act on cosine act on radical 3 over 2. You then have a pi over 6. Okay, so those two values are the same. Then you have arccosine, cosine, something. An angle is the same angle. Okay, remember here x must be from 0 to pi. We'll have x, if x is not from 0 to pi, it makes sense here, because cosine x takes every real numbers. We'll have examples later on. Okay? But here is the identity I want to emphasize. This is the second thing besides the graph of arccosine from the basic values.